All right, here we go. First episode I've done in a long time. I just took a little break, and then in real life, I moved across the country. So it was quite a bit of computers setting up the last few weeks. So I'm happy to get back into the episode swing of things now that we're hitting the off season. Crazy year in FTD. A lot of fun stuff happened. Um, the pinnacle of it all was the World Series, which Cleveland took a 95 win team. Pretty loaded roster across the board, really balanced here. So you can see fourth in runs against. Really good, solid pitching there. Really good bullpen. Not really bad at anything there. Offensively, they're just above average there. Second in stolen bases, had a bunch of high, decent batting averages, and just really, like I said, a balanced organization right down to the farm system. Like they got probably a top three farm system in the league on top of that. So looks like he's built up a really nice contender that's not really going away anytime soon. Lineup is really loaded. Sierra's turned into one of the better players in baseball. Pretty much solidified himself as a top catcher now in the league. Always kind of been in that top tier, but a couple guys kind of starting to age out. Sierra, at only 31 years old, really still in his prime. Just had a monster season, hit 320 as a catcher. And then they had some really good defense in the middle there. Carmouche leading the way with the monster bat RBIs. Another huge season out of him. And then Gavin Luxx with a 5 WAR season. So couple of those older guys. The crazy thing is they did it without Bellinger. But Bellinger was injured a ton this season. Only played 33 games. Didn't even play in the playoffs. So obviously a really loaded roster to be able to pull that off without arguably your top player. Him, I guess he's also in that top tier with Sierra, and pretty much they're all kind of similar value there. I'd say Bellinger is the veteran of the group as the oldest, but yeah, really the big move for them was picking up Stanton at the trade deadline. Big time trade, came and just dominated in the playoffs and really led them to victory. So that was kind of the big move of the trade deadline this season. Comes over from Chicago and just absolutely decent in the regular season. Like a 5 ERA is pretty high, decent FIP. Yeah, when it came to playoff time, you see 4 of his last 5 starts, 8 innings, just absolutely throwing fire every single start. So that was pretty exciting for them. They knocked off Atlanta. Disappointing season for Milwaukee and Montreal and some of those really good teams with over 100 wins. Tampa Bay couldn't quite get the job done, but 32 teams, only one's going to win. It's pretty tough to pull off. Still fantastic seasons from them. Milwaukee, like historically good offensively and defensively. If you look at their team there at the bottom, you see like they rank in the top 10 in pretty much every position group. Preciado's one of the best players in the league. Richardson's one of the best players in the league. Figueroa, just an absolute dominant season. Nunez is a catcher at 125 WC plus. So just an amazing team that's going to be in contention next year for sure too. So the big story is the offseason coming up, just with the timing right now. So the real crown jewel of the free agent class looks to be Izaac Pacheco. Pacheco is a perennial MVP candidate. He's got, as you can see, 6'8", 4.5 WAR seasons every single year. He's just amazing. He has 68 career WAR already and 319 home runs in his career. Still only 32 without any major signs of regression defensively or offensively. So should be able to hang on for a long time. Even if he loses one of the two, like he could lose lots of offense, still be an elite defender at shortstop or vice versa. He could lose a ton of defense, transition over to second base, still be or third base, anything he really wants. So unless he just has an absolute major aggression, he's going to be a superstar for a long time. So the bidding war on him is likely to be crazy. There's going to be some teams, I think, that can't really afford him, but you can always move some stuff around to make it work, a backloaded deal or cut out your development budget. It's just very rare that a 6 power, 7 defender shortstop makes free agency and kind of like the twilight years of his prime. Still could be in his prime right till 34, 35 if he everything goes right. He doesn't have any injury stuff yet. He's a high leadership guy in the locker room. Just really has everything you need. Just an absolute monster. So we'll see what big budget teams kind of make a run for him. Right behind him is Mike Murphy, who is pretty much almost as valuable if it wasn't for the fact of his injury proneness. It's really scary to give a guy like a 6 or 8 year deal when he has wrecked injury status, but you kind of risk it with him. Like he has that, but if you look, he's never really had a big injury issue. So the game says he's wrecked, but he plays like 130, 150 games every season. The dude has captain leadership also. Really good for the locker room. 7.3 WAR. He's just an on-base machine. He has the modern-day Juan Soto with that ADI. The walk percentages his entire career are just outrageous, right around 400 every single season. So you just put a guy like that near the top of your lineup somewhere, anywhere from 2 to 4, and you just make every lineup so much better. So again, you kind of there's going to be some teams that are definitely going to risk it, even though he's wrecked. It's not like he's so talented, even if he only plays 80 games a year. In those 80 games, he's like a top 4, top 5 player in baseball. So that's very key to add to your lineup. So that'll be really interesting. And you almost have the exact same scenario with Jonatan Clase. He has lost a little bit of his bat, so he's not quite the freak that Murphy and Pacheco are when it comes to power. Like he used to have like 60, 70 contact and like 55 power, and he had a little more avoid K, I think. But so he showed a little bit of regression compared to the other two, but he's still absolutely incredible. He's had a lot more injury problems than Murphy. He only played couldn't really crack over like 120 games like 3 years in a row until this year. So this year he really bounced back, but a lot of day-to-day injuries. His injury report in his career is pretty wild. A lot of small stuff, but pretty much same reasoning I just said with Murphy. It's going to be really tough to pass on this guy because you figure even if he plays 80 or 100 games, you get such a stud for that amount of games. So you have a guy that has almost an 80 with 80 range in center field. That's all you really need, and that's a much better than above average bat in center field. Not many center fielders have 50 power, 50 contact with over 70 range. So just a really special talent, even though he's shown a little regression. Should probably get a little short-term deal compared to the other two, but I'd imagine it's going to be really high AAV. And then you got Josh Woolverton. This class is just stacked. I don't know if he will make it out. I'd imagine Tampa will probably try to re-sign him. Their budget's getting a little bigger over the years because they've been successful. But if he does hit free agency, he's only 30, so he has a lot of prime years left. Guy has the ability to play a really high-level shortstop or like an elite second base defender. Really good power for a middle-of-the-field bat. Just not much to be said. Just clearly a talented dude. Another MVP candidate every single season, Steve Richardson. A little quieter season this year, but if you look at his past in Pittsburgh, just was like a cornerstone type player. Huge power. Just a little less range than Clase, but a little more juice in his bat. He's fragile at 32 years old, so again, he might do the really high average annual value 3-4 year deal, unless somebody really wants and it gets into a bidding war. It could go longer, but another guy that just, if he can stay healthy, he's just so elite. Gavin Luxx, he is a guy that's 36 years old, but he's still so damn good. I could see a team throwing a lot of money at him too if he makes it out of Cleveland. It's been so good there for so long. Incredible career, 73 career WAR, really high up on the all-time home run list at 465. So he's got a real good chance there to crack 500 over probably the next 2 years. Early, kind of keeps at this pace hitting 25, 30 a year. Probably take about a year and a half to get that, but if he stays healthy. But yeah, just a legend in this league. And then there's a few Colorado guys that I think they're not probably going to let them all walk. So there's Bregman down here, Amador and Blade, 3 of their best players this year. And Romo's a free agent. So the new GM there, it's going to be really interesting to see what he decides on. All those guys are really good. So if any of those guys hit free agency, it's going to be a big time payday for them. Tuzio just had an insane year. I would be surprised if Atlanta lets him walk unless his demand is just too out of this world. Played a little above his talent level. His talent level is really good, like 65 power, but with 45 contact, he was hitting like 320 most of the year, which is a little bit of an outlier season, but he is just a monster. Still has a big time bat that not many guys have, that big power and eye combination. Good base runner for a first baseman too. So yeah, really super loaded free agent class. We haven't even got down to those guys like this who most years, like guy like all the way down in this tier, like Porter Brown or like Mel Squire. These guys would be like second or third best free agent most seasons. This year just seems really loaded compared to normal. So haven't even really got to talking about all these superstars down here. Like Brian Aquino just had like 3.5 FIP, starting pitcher there with those kind of ratings. And he's just not even close to the top 10 in this list. So just shows the depth here. So we'll see who has money. And I'd imagine there's going to be some fireworks going off this year in the free agency. So that'll be really, really interesting. We'll look back at the rookie draft. This pool as a lot has changed since last year. We'll actually look back at the history of all the guys taken last year and see if the new game kind of changed them quite a bit. A few guys like Emmanuel Majai here, the new game absolutely loves him and just boosted the shit out of his ratings. I think he was at like 65, 70 power for me and before we made the switch to out of the park 24. So we got a big jump there. Another huge jump was Stanko's currents. His potentials went down a bit, but the currents went pretty high up. So his eye went crazy. I think it was like 35 when we were in the last game. So he's almost major league ready. Just probably needs got pushed pretty hard last year. Probably a little too hard to, in my opinion. But he's still freaking. So he'll probably start in like AA or AAA, and then but he's pretty close to being major league ready. My guy took a little bit of a hit, unfortunately. Radford lost about 10 contact in the new game, but he's still pretty good. Sean Miller took a pretty big hit. He was like 70 power, 80 contact. Some of these high school guys lost some on their contact power combinations for sure. The one guy that just turned into a freak I posted in the chat was Chris Williams. He actually only had like 50 or 55 power before, jumped up to 65. So when you look at those ratings at 18-year-old 45 current contact, with the season he just had 3 WAR in 70 games, the guy is looks like a superstar. He fell a little bit in the draft because of the high bonus demand, but I'd imagine a redraft with that new power potential, he would probably be tough to pass on for the first or second pick there. I got pretty lucky here. This was the story of my offseason. Bob Irway was already pretty good, but he got a huge jump in ratings to the new game, and I'd say he's probably, in my opinion, like a top 3, top 5 prospect in all baseball now. It's so rare to have a 75 range shortstop with that good of a bat. Looks like he could be like pretty much like a superstar top 3 shortstop in the league if it all goes well. He's still long ways away, like 25 points off his contact at 22 years old, so he probably won't make it to 75. You never know, but if he gets anywhere close to that, like even 60, 65 contact with that kind of gap power, gets to 50 power, 45 approach, with that kind of defense, he's probably like a 6 or 7 WAR guy at his ceiling there, so maybe even more if he really maxes out on everything. So looks like he was pretty good, but now he's starting to look like a superstar, which is pretty exciting to me. Some of these guys really fell, but well, actually, what I want to do is look at this next draft class. There's a few guys at this top of this class that are really exciting. I have a little thing set up that kind of measures their currents and potentials, and the way it's looking right now by overalls, there's 2 guys that really stand above the rest in their currents. You can see it right here with the yellow, and everyone else is the red and orange. It's the 2 middle infielders here. Kackley was a 3rd pick of the draft with a huge bonus, and Oakland couldn't afford to sign him. So he hits the draft again. He went back for his senior year, and he's re-entered in the draft. The dude is really close to being major league ready. He's a top-notch defender, top-notch runner, and he's a top-notch hitter at shortstop. Really has a lot of A-Rod in his game. That's pretty high praise, but really is that special. It's just the mentals, which also A-Rod was kind of an asshole when he was young. So really special talent. This guy could be a franchise superstar if he can stay out of trouble there. If he gets anywhere close to those ratings, like shortstop with 60 power, above average eye, above average defense, above average athleticism, spells out superstar. So he's going to be tough to pass on. And at the top here, might be an even better prospect. It's real close for me. Policarpo has really close to a major league ready bat already, with a bunch of stuff teetering at the currents right close to 50 already, just a little bit low in the approach, but really high level second baseman, kind of a fringe middle infielder. Could probably survive at short with below average defense with that elite of a bat, or be a really rangy second baseman. The turn double plays a bit low, but you don't get too picky when your bat's that good. Like if your bat's that elite, you'd be happy with like 50 range, 50 turn double play. So it's just incredible offensive skill set. So not many second basemen with that kind of juice in their bat. So those 2 guys kind of stand above the rest early on here. And then there's as hitters actually, and then there's one of the most special pitchers I've ever seen. The jump on this guy from the new game was just ridiculous. Before we switched up to out of the park 24, he had like 55, 65, and he just switched to the new game and went crazy. The changeup is an 80 potential, so he has fastball, slider, circle change. Some of the craziest ratings you'll see. That's very rare that they stay that high. Most high school guys look like that when they're 16, 17, or at least the tool scouts show that. And then they drop quite a bit when they get older, and turns in. I've had that happen quite a bit, but it's worth noting just how special this guy is. Even though that happens quite a bit, it's very rare you see all 3 potentials in the 70 plus range, especially with the 80 stuff. Just absolutely ridiculous. Ceiling on him. Bo Scarborough probably isn't too far behind. The control, it looks like heavy reliever wrist, probably not a legit changeup. Very rarely those 25 changeups turn out, but it does say it's a 75, and the sinker fastball are just outrageous. Looks like that guy, it's like a Adonis Chapman type player with that kind of stuff movement, kind of like Jim Madden looked, and this guy the year before, forget his name right now, but 2 drafts in a row we've kind of had that like high school guy with like the 80 stuff, 75 movement type profile. And both those guys are still young, so we'll see what happens. But Scarborough fits the mold of that. I think they went like 7th overall and 12th overall. Those kind of very similar players in the last 2 draft classes. So I'd imagine Scarborough goes pretty high. The other elite prospect from the looks of it is Ricky Rios. This guy is ceiling wise is just good as any of them. Probably has the highest ceiling actually, but he is a lot younger and more risky and really far from those potentials. So I don't know if he'll go above those other 2 college guys, the shortstop and the second baseman we just talked about, Policarpo and Kackley. But it's also, again, that's a good problem to have at the top of the draft if these guys are all freaky talented. So you can't really go wrong with any of them. It really just depends on the bonus and some of the fits of the windows of your team if you want a college guy or you can wait for a younger guy. But Ricky Rios is about as good as a high school shortstop as you'll ever see. 65 range is always a little scary because it falls to 60, probably more of a second baseman, but doesn't have that shiny 70 range that Kackley has, but also could get better when they're that young. That good a defender, it could always go up. So we'll see what happens. But tantalizing prospect there, Ricky Rios, is really exciting. One of the best high school shortstops you'll ever see. So pretty exciting there. A lot of other good guys I won't really get into. Just kind of wanted to give a little preview for someone that in this league, some of you that haven't looked at the draft yet, just some of those big sparkling talents at the top. So when the lottery coming up, it'll play a big role. It looks like there's a clear cut, like 3 or 4 elite guys at the top there. So position player wise, so it'll be really interesting to see how the lottery shakes out there. And so one of those new GMs can land a top 2 pick, or the White Sox get lucky and get another first overall pick yet again. So lots happening there. So anyways, that's it. I don't want to make this episode forever, but I just kind of want to make one because it's been a long time. Excited to get back into the content creation a little bit, just to make it a little more for you people to have some free time to watch. Hope you enjoy. Cheers.